Hello, Angela Meiritz-Reid here, Stampin' Up demonstrator based in Christchurch, New Zealand. Today I'm sharing with you how I created this handmade card for this week's global design project, which is a sketch challenge. In the description link below will be all the products I've used and also a link to my blog where there is a written tutorial, another link to that, and that will have all the sizes and products I've used. This card was inspired by the back of the celebration brochure. This stamp set is a free set in there. I'll show you that in a moment, but this card on the back, I checked out how it was created and I've used that idea today for this card. So it's in this on page 14, and this is a stamp set, the Wonderful World stamp set. It comes in New Zealand with a $220 purchase, and you get the stamp set and this beautiful DSP at the back. This colour they've used is rich raspberry, so I've started with a rich raspberry card base, and just crease that and burnish that. That's all ready to go. And then this next layer here I've got another layer of rich raspberry, and I'll just bring in my embossing die cutting machine. So I'm using my favourite, which is a time-worn 3D embossing folder. Run that through. And then to just lighten the colour up a bit, I've added some white Whisper white ink using a blending brush. So doesn't look plain, but it is. So what I'm going to do, I've got a little bit of ink on the end here, so I'll just pat it onto here. I don't want it to be too white. So what I'm going to do is start in the middle where it's going to be hidden by that, just so that I don't get too much on the card, and I can just take it out from there. Oopsie. Right, so when you've got as much coverage as you'd like, just trying to avoid getting my fingers all over it. That can be set aside to dry. And then we'll start working on the other elements. So we've just got a circle here that we're going to die cut. I'm doing all the easy things first. I'll just pop my silicone mat, that just helps it stay in place without it rolling away on me. I've got that ready to go. So what I want to do with that is just flick over some ink, and I'm going to use the rich raspberry marker. So once again, as little as much as you like. You could leave it until you pop your flower on, but I didn't really want to interfere with all that colouring I'd gone to the trouble of doing, so I've just got that much there. And now I'm going to do the colouring. So I've got a bit of basic white cardstock and then smoky slate, and then just need to stamp it and then stamp it off, and then stamp that image on here. And then what we're going to do is colour it. Now I just want to let you know this is going to take a bit of time. So, and I thought I wouldn't speed it up so you could see it in real time. But if you don't want to watch how I do it totally, by all means just fast forward to further along. So I might just start with the Pear Pizzazz and just show you. So I'm using the these blender pen, and I'm just going to pick up a bit of ink from here and then just colour over the smoky slate. So you just have to be patient, really. I'm not worrying too much with this one about shading because it is so thin and near impossible to try and do anything like that with this. I'm just using the very tip, which you can see is very fine. So just as dark or as light as you'd like it. Right. And then to clean it off, you just rub it onto a bit of scrap paper. And the newer they are, the easier it is to come off. When they get old, just they're totally stained and the colour just seems to just stay in the blender pen. But they do last a really long time and they're great to colour with. So this one here, what I want to do is, I'll just pop a bit more ink on here. I found the easiest way was to colour the darker areas first. So I don't want them too dark. So I'll just spread that out a little bit. So, and then starting here, and then I'll just, while I've still got a reasonable amount of dark colour on the tip, I'm just going to go in and colour these areas that are a little bit darker. They do seem to hold quite a lot of ink. And it probably is one of those things, it's better to start off lighter and then add a bit more. Right, it's sort of worn off quite a bit, so I'm going to go back in and then sort of drag that colour up. And just sort of blend it in a little bit. those ones at the bottom, I'm going to make these a little bit darker. There's shading on there, so that does help. You can see those sort of shaded areas. So that's what I'm working with. Just yeah, bring those darker bits in there. So you probably want to give a card like this to someone you really, really like, because it does take a bit of effort. And with a new blender pen too, the nib isn't sort of, nib at least, isn't worn down, so it's nice and sharp and pointed. Just sort of then start blending it out towards the edge. That's what that sort of that area around this sort of watered down colour is good for. And I'm just using the basic white cardstock. I'm not sort of, as you can see, not really going backwards and forwards too much over it. I think if you were, you probably would be better to use maybe the shimmery white cardstock would work. And then these ones have sort of got little, I'm not sure if you can see, I'll bring it up, these sort of little darker little loopy bits on it, so I've just popped a bit of darker ink on those, and then I'll come in and blend that out. Let it dry, let it just sit a little bit just to dry, hopefully. Just with something like this, it is better not to rush. I was rushing a little bit when I was doing my original one, and I went over the edge a little bit. But what I used was the Stampin' chalk marker just to colour over my smudge. Made that a little bit dark. I'll just add a bit more on the bottom of those, some of those others too, just to even it out a bit. Actually, that's another thing you can do if you find it is a little bit too dark. Just pop a little bit of this white on here and then just colour over it. It will just tone it down a little bit. And then I'll just go into the middle again. Just colour over that and smudge that in. And I think I've got everything now. So if you're happy with where you've got all your colour, then you can, I'm going to move on to my next one. So same again, start with the darker the bottom, and I mean the shading is all there, so it does make it relatively easy. Work's done for you. This one's probably a little bit trickier. It's got these tiny little darker bits at the back. I did start off doing the lighter bits first, and I found that it was easier to see if I did the darker bits first. And if you, sometimes when you're doing something like this, you start to think, oh, where does something start and where does something stop? I always have a look on the stamp. Sometimes it helps if you have a look on here, then you get a really clear idea of what's happening. Especially because this has been stamped off, so it's not as clear as it would be. Right, so now I'm just going to go in and blend those up. Also, I don't think, well, one would hope that somebody who receives a card or sees your card's not going to be too critiquey about it and point out faults you've made. So I think that looks fairly okay. You can always add some more touches later on, but hopefully they sort of blend together. Right, now I'm going to do something. I'll just clean that off while I remember. It's nothing worse than picking one up later on and you've haven't cleaned it off. Now, crazily as it might seem, I'm going to fussy cut that. So once again, if you don't want to see this in real time, just have a bit of a fast forward. And if you don't like fussy cutting, then perhaps you could always just cut around it and do a different shape up here, so that if you did it as a rectangle, that would avoid doing any fussy cutting. And of course you can be, if you are fussy cutting it, you don't have to get too particular. I like fussy cutting, so it doesn't faze me, but if you don't, then you want to find a way around it. This paper, the paper that goes with this is beautiful, and it's got some really gorgeous floral images, and a couple of the sheets have got large floral images, and I sat the other night in front of TV cutting them out a sheet, which I really enjoyed. And if you do end up, you know, sort of cutting, getting a bit carried away and cutting, or accidentally cutting through something, you can just piece it together. I've been known to do that. Sometimes the scissors have slipped and cut something in half, but if you carefully can sort of piece it back together, we will, you know, glue it so it looks like it belongs together again. Hopefully the lighting's okay today. It's starting to get darker and darker outside. I think there's going to be some rain coming. It's winter here, and we have had 2 really quite warm days, 17 degrees, which for us in the middle of winter is quite warm. And lots of sunny days, which was nice too. So nearly there. I almost think these, cutting around these finer things are obviously harder because there's not much area to cut around, and then they become they're quite fine wee leaves, so it's not much room for error. You know, flimsy, that's what I was going to say. Nearly there. I'm not sure. I should have had my timer on to see how long it took me to fussy cut that. Hopefully not too long in real time. Right, and that is done. So clear all that rubbish away. And then we'll start putting it all together. So I want to pop the twine around here, and what I've done is I just, because sometimes when you tie a bow and you tie it when it's already attached, you know, a continuation of what you've popped on, it doesn't always go exactly where you want it to go. So I find it's easy to pop this on now and then tie the bow and add it afterwards. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll just show you. This is about, let's see, oh, it's exactly 7 centimeters from the top. So then I've just got some of the tear and tape, just rip off a couple of pieces, and then just going to adhere that to the back. 7 centimetres. And of course you want that to be straight, so check that. Yep. And also it's quite good just to make sure, just check it from line across here, line it up. And then I just want to add that onto here, so I'll just use a zillion and one dimensionals. Well, not really, but I don't like it sagging. So now it's a little bit easier to, the easy part now, just assembling it really. Get that nice and even. And then this here I'm going to pop on here, so once again with dimensionals. I want to avoid the baker's twine. I always cut my dimensionals too up. I just have a small container, so I cut them up into quarters, and what I like about that is then I end up with all these half bits, which I find really handy on projects. Sometimes you just don't need a full one. Right, so I want to tuck that down about there. And then this I'm going to add with dimensionals. 1.5 on there, and I'll do the same on that one, and then I'll pop some underneath at the bottom here where I know the sentiment's going to be. I'll do that in a minute. So I want that just so it's poking over the top. Let's see, about there I think. And then what I'm going to do is tie my bow, and I'm just going to pop a glue dot down for where that's going to go, which is just about there. Sure that's nice and even, the loops. Might try and make them just a little bit bigger. Just check they're even. And then I'll just pop that onto my glue dot. And even once you've got it on the glue dot, if you decide that you wanted to make it slightly smaller, you can just easily pull those a bit smaller. And I'll just trim those off a little bit. And then I've already got some sentiments embossed. These are from the Sending Smiles stamp set, and this die cut here is from the Give It a Whirl dies. I discovered this just recently, that it's a similar size to my favourite punch that is no longer the classic label punch. Perfect for this size sentiment. Just going to trim off the edges so it doesn't matter too much. Just want to get it nice and straight which it's not going to do. Hopefully that doesn't move. Throw that on the floor. And I just want to trim, I'm just going to trim those straight. If I'd done it with enough broom, I could have left those wee tails on. And then I just want that to sit across there, and it, so I know that under I can pop a little half one of these just under here. So I just want to get that nice and flat across there. It's the only thing, sometimes you just have to be sort of work out where things are going to go. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue across it, just make sure I've got a nice full glue. Just pop that on top of there and across there. Just want it to be nice and flat and even, and then it's nice and straight. So I'll just pop that there. Hopefully that will look okay. And then lastly, I'm just going to add the pearls. I thought the pearls went really well with the rich raspberry, nice and elegant. So nice, one of the larger ones here. Let's see. Does not want to come. Just pop that one about there. And then one of these little baby seed ones down here. And then I've just popped another little seed one just up there. And that's my card. So thanks very much for watching along. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you again next week. Thanks everyone. Bye.